It's a pleasure to have you join us on another episode of the program. I am Okpeyemi Owosheni. The Nigerian Customs Service has been directed to start the implementation of the 0% import duty and exemption of value-added tax on basic food items. This announcement on the timeline of the implementation of the duty waiver is contained in a statement released by Abdullahi Maiwada, that's the Chief Superintendent of Custom and National Public Relations Officer for the Comptroller General of Customs. In July 2024, the federal government had approved the 150-day duty-free window to facilitate the importation of maize, brown rice and wheat as part of measures to address escalating food inflation. Now responding, the Comptroller General of NCS, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, has instructed officials of the service to commence enforcement measures immediately. Still in the world of business, in a bid to simplify the non-tax payment process by resident and corporate entities in Lagos, the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has formally inaugurated the innovative Lagos Revenue Portal. Speaking at the launch, the governor said the innovative online platform is designed to simplify how Lagos residents and corporate entities perform their civic responsibilities in the form of non-tax payment, making the entire process more efficient, convenient, and secure for residents. He added that the portal allows residents to manage and print their bills and make payments online through multiple available channels. We'll go on a short break and be back with more stories in the corporate world. Welcome back. Fidelity Bank has surpassed the 127.1 billion naira target set in its combined offer program as the bank concludes the program. Now, in an email to investors, the managing director of the bank, Nneka Onyali-Ikpe, expressed appreciation, noting that the bank had surpassed the target set. Fidelity Bank now becomes the first bank to launch a capital-raising effort in line with the Central Bank of Nigeria's recapitalization directive. The bank launched a combined offer featuring 10 billion naira ordinary shares available at 9 naira 75 kobo through a public offer and 3.2 billion naira ordinary shares at 9 naira 25 kobo through a rights issue. The combined offer was meant to end on July 29, 2024, but the bank received approval from SEC to extend the offer and increase the number of offered shares to cater for an oversubscription. The extended offering saw Fidelity Bank issue an additional 8.2 billion naira shares, with 5 billion naira shares sold in the public offer and 3.2 billion naira sold in the rights issue. Guaranty Trust Bank has confirmed an attempt to hack an incident on its website, addressing recent media reports that claimed hackers had seized and cloned the bank's website, intercepting customer data in the process. The hacking attempt occurred just a day after the bank renewed its domain name, causing a temporary disruption to the website, which left customers unable to access online services. Now, this led to widespread concerns and media reports suggesting that the bank's website has been cloned, potentially putting customer data at risk. In a statement released on August 15, 2024, the bank clarified that while there was an isolated attempt to compromise its website domain, the website had not been cloned and no customer data was at risk. We'll go on a break now, but when Money Matter returns, we'll be discussing Nigeria's inflation rates declining in July 2024. I'll bring you details of this after this break. Welcome back. For the first time in 19 months, Nigeria's inflation rate declined to 33.40% in July 2024. That's below the 34.19% reported in June this year. Now, with the Consumer Price Index published on Thursday by the National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation rate decreased by 0.8%. The Bureau revealed that the headline inflation rate in July showed a 0.3 points% when compared to the June 2024 headline inflation rate. The NBS also said the food inflation inflation rate in July 2024 dropped to 39.5% compared to 40.87% recorded in June 2024. However, on a year-on-year basis, the July figure was 12.55 percentage points higher compared to the 26.98% inflation rate recorded in July 2023. Let's discuss this further. Economist Mukhtar Mohammed now joins me on the program. Many thanks for joining me on the program, Mr. Mohammed. Now, the NBS has indicated a decline in Nigeria's headline inflation rate to 33.40% in July 2024 from 34.19% in June 2024. Now, what factors do you think could have contributed to the decline in the headline inflation rate from 34.19% in June to 33.40% in July 2024?
I think from the report from the NBS, you know that what was responsible for that decline majorly was the reduction in household, I mean, especially food items like tomatoes and others. I think that was largely what was responsible for that drop that you've seen. Because from that report, it also shows that cost of those items has gone down, but there are still other challenges. But major driver of bringing down that cost has to do with food item reduction in food item agricultural items, and you see that reduction play in the food inflation, which was at a height of about 40%, but went down to 39.39%. So definitely, it's just the food side that we've seen those reduction. Every other side still maintain the status quo, if not even higher.
Okay, also, despite the month-on-month decline, the inflation rate is still significantly higher on a year-on-year basis. Now, what does this imply about the overall economic situation in the country?
Well, two things they imply that there are things that we are not yet doing right, so we need to do it right. If since the last time we have a decline in inflation is 2022, and that means since the advent of this administration, despite their economic policy, we've not seen those decline in inflation and pressure, then there's a lot of work to be done. And like you say, this decline is very marginal. So it shows that there are a lot of things that we are not doing right. Maybe we need to do more to bring down this inflationary pressure that we're experiencing on all angles, and especially food inflation, which is largely driven by a lot of factors. Farmers not going to the farm, and a lot of things have been happening. I think majorly what is driving these issues are there are a lot of things that we are not doing, especially when we are an import-dependent economy, especially our exchange rate is still very, 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 very high. And most of this household item comes from outside the shore of this country. Basically, we need to address those fundamentals before we begin to see the impact of the reduction in food inflation, especially when you know at the advance of this administration, the exchange rate at that time was about 700. And then Nigerians were even clamoring that it was too high, but now it's about 1,500. So that's over 100 and something percent increase in terms of that exchange rate. And like I said, most of these foods that we take here in this country were imported from outside the shore, and that's majorly is a challenge.
Right, so the report highlights a higher inflation rate in urban areas with about 35.77%. Now, compared to rural areas, which was at 31.26%, what are the possible reasons for this disparity?
Well, we must be happy that finally, there was a time that the rural area seems to have so much of inflation and than the urban area. And you remember we usually have rural urban migration. So it was almost like we will start having urban rural migration. So, but basically, I think it's good if you see those reduction in the urban in the rural area. That means that some of them will be able to go to farm. That's a positive there. Remember, like I keep saying, the rural area are people that normally take care of their table food. They cultivate what they eat. They are not so much those that depend on imported product from outside the shore of this country. The only item they depend that is imported might be like household items or maybe other things that they cannot produce. So we are happy that that has come down. But for the urban area, of course, you know why the cost of transportation is still very high. Electricity tariff has gone up. Also, that is also contributing to urban inflation. Also, the the ease of doing a lot of business in terms of production costs also have gone up. And again, when you talk about urban area, we're not talking about Lagos alone. Lagos and Abuja seems to be the only place that you have had stable price in terms of petroleum products. But outside Lagos and Abuja, when you go to Port Harcourt, you go to the southeast, you go to the south side, you go to the north central, northwest, petroleum products is selling almost at 800, some places 900. So all these are the factors that are driving this um, inflationary pressure, especially in the urban area.
So food inflation remains particularly high at 39.53%. What will you say are the primary drivers of this surge in food prices, and how might it affect household consumption patterns, seeing that it's one thing that has been we've been struggling with over a period of time in the country now?
Yes, it's affecting household consumption, but again, the effect on household consumption also has to do with the cost, like you said. Then also the earning capability of the average Nigerian is not the same that it used to be. Even with the advent of the minimum wage, some of these minimum wage here also have not been paid yet. So definitely you are not seeing those price type of movement that you are, consumer perception or consumer purchasing power has gone up. We're expecting the MBS to come up with this report. Let's see whether there's an improvement on that side. Again, yes, agriculture is still high, but like I said, most of the cost of this driving high cost of food items, it has to do one, like I said, exchange rate. Then secondly, also cost of transportation. If you look at some of these places that we get some of these maybe agricultural items like yam, like tomatoes, like onions. Like I just told you that the cost of PMS in those areas is about 800 to 900 naira. So that will jack up the cost of transportation. And when they transport it from that place down to to Lagos and to other urban areas, the cost will definitely go up, and then they pass it back to the consumer. So that's why you are seeing the kind of pressure you are seeing in agricultural input. And even when they have to bring in the machines also for local production of these products, the exchange rate is very high, and they don't enjoy any duty-free in terms of tariff-free in bringing into some of these machines. So all these are parts that are contributing to this high food inflation that you are getting.
Okay, so over a period of time now, the Nigerian government has introduced several policies in a bid to tackle inflation, particularly food inflation. Now, one of which is the commencement of duty-free import on food items, just in a bid to tackle food inflation, like I said earlier. Now, do you think this will be effective in addressing the persistent rise in food inflation, especially in the context of Nigeria's agricultural sector, saying that it's a very big issue?
Look, have canvassed for it. I think I've said it in your program before that the best way we can tackle inflation as it stands now is to do cut government cut bite of their revenue by removing tariff on agricultural product, especially household product that household food items. And if you remove tariff from there, I mean, it has a very important role to drag down the price, because this happened in Ghana. This also happened in Kenya, where by tariff were removed from essential commodities that are needed by household. And that have driven down inflation in those countries. Ghana is even doing now a 28 months coming down of inflation. Remember that we started almost at the same time with them. So that will help, especially when these duties are not fixed, like what you see today. It's paid by winning buyer, willing seller, and what we see in the port is today is 1,600, tomorrow is 1,500. All these also a big challenge. And so I think this is one of the best decisions they have taken. even if I still believe that there's a lot of bottlenecks involved in it. You have to fill some forms to be qualified for it. And I thought it should be a slimless thing. You know, those people that are bringing in this household item, you know what these household items are. So you don't need all these documentation. This documentation can be done when these things are bringing. So it creates a lot of bureaucracy. And again, the longer you begin to do bureaucracy, then you are bringing room for corruption. And then what some of the gains that you think you will achieve, you will not be able to achieve it. So I think government should, on their own, take the bull by the horn, make sure that this policy works and it's deliver on time, speed of delivery. Yes, but the only challenge is that you might not begin to see the impact of this immediately because some other importers that have brought in some of this rate at the time that tariff was not was still being paid have not been able to sell because the earning ability of the average Nigerian is still very low. So it will take some time, but definitely when those impact of this removal and tariff begin to play, you see inflation comes down.
Well, let's talk about policies now. So now, given the current inflation dynamics, what monetary or fiscal policies would you recommend for the Nigerian government to stabilize the prices of things in the country, away from food inflation, prices of things generally now?
Well, for me, I think the monetary committee may just have to put a brake on hike on interest rate. That's what they need to do. They also need to also make availability of FX liquidity into the market, then stabilize the FX price. Because if you're saying that they are not going to pay tariff, but they also need FX to bring in this product. So you don't do one policy in one hand, then you lose it in the other hand, whereby in terms of if they are still going to be paying high tariff I mean, going to be not paying high tariff, but now they are going to be sourcing for FX at a very high rate. So I think the monetary policy should look at how they can help in that area, cut down your stop hiking interest rate so that a lot of farmers or a lot of all these people that are involved can get easy loan at a lower cost compared to what they are getting anytime you hike the rate and also make FX available because we are an import driven economy, especially when it comes to food. Most of the food items we cannot locally produce ourselves. Even when we produce, we are not producing enough to meet the demands of our citizens. So that is one. Therefore, the physical side, I think they have taken two very, very key decisions, which I think is good. One of them, like I said before, now was the removal of a tariff on some of these items that are needed by houses. So that will bring down cost of those goods. Then secondly, also hearing the government saying that they will have to advocate the military to give protection for farmers to be able to go to farm so that they'll be able to produce, and that is enhancing security. That's also another way of food security. Once that can be done with what the CBN will do, I think we'll see a reduction in inflation.
So now, Mr. Mohammed, you would agree with me that Nigeria's economy has seen so many policies being introduced, all in a bid to tackle inflation. One of them is the increment of the monetary policy rate by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, how effective do you think all of these recent government policies have been in managing inflation, particularly in the context of the broader economic challenges Nigeria has been facing so far?
I think the result has not been commensurate with some of the policy they have put through. And the challenge is that it seems to do the same thing other countries are doing. We are not looking at the precarity of our own economy. What is driving our inflation is different from what is driving inflation in the UK, it's different from what is driving inflation in the US, it's different from what is driving inflation in other countries. So we need to look at the precarity of our own. So why this policy have not really seen the light of the day and effect like we should have been seeing for me is because we still have not dealt with the fundamentals of Nigerian inflation and pressure, which is the exchange rate volatility, one, and then the high cost of doing business when you hike interest rate. Those are the two costs. So when you are trying to attract investors in one hand, you are stifling growth because a lot of Nigerian businesses, when you hike rates to attract foreign investors to bring in the FX, a lot of Nigerian business will be paying high cost or high cost of funding, and this will definitely affect their expansion drive, other things they need to do. So for me, I think some of these policies have not been able to hit the ground running because of our own peculiarity that has to do with our own economic situation on ground. So we need to begin to look at, if you want to drive inflation in Nigeria, monetary policy, using a monetary policy tool, you must make sure that you make FX available and it's also at a fixed price. When I mean fixed price, stability. And then also you must begin to see how you can help the SME, the informal sector. Because again, when you are trying to use the normal economic textbook to drive down inflation in Nigeria, which is to reduce liquidity, the most vibrant um, Nigerian economical sector is the informal sector. And so when you reduce liquidity from that sector, it's going to have a negative impact on the economy. So you need to come up with a tool instead of reducing liquidity. How you can use support that sector in their drive towards moving into technological advancements, especially in payment system. Those are part of the things that you can use to using technology to drive down inflation. So those are some of the things that the government need to do if they really want some of these their policy that they're implementing to work. But most importantly, we must come up with a household solution to our own problem because our own problem is not largely driven by demand and supply. There are other factors. Demand and supply is there, cost of production is there, exchange rate volatility is there, high cost of transportation is there, insecurity is there. So it's not just one, two, like when you have a distortion, when you have too much liquidity in the system. No, that's not what we are experiencing in our own country. Our own factors are many. So you need to look at this precarity of those factors and begin to address that factors with an homegrown solution.
Now, this is the first decline since 2022, and that's in like about 19 months. Now, what is your forecast for Nigeria's inflation in the coming months? Should we expect further declines, or are there risks of inflation rising again?
I think we should expect further demands, for further decline. I'm expectant in that space because, like I said, removal of tariff on goods that are also a good food item, agriculture. That for me is a game changer. One, then secondly, the CBN is beginning to do the Dutch offshore system, which make FX available for a lot of importers through their banks. A little bit of transparency is there. So I expect that there will be relative stability in terms of price of FX, especially, and I see a situation whereby we could see some of this stability bring down the exchange rate. That also will help drive down inflation. Then, thirdly, I think what I told you now that farmers can be able to go to farm with protection from the troop, the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, and others. Those three very, very key policy could help drive down inflation. And remember, again, government is also doing the direct cash settlement, intervention on houses. Also, we have not seen, I don't know whether you have seen, the trailers of rice, that trucks of rice. Now they say they will be distributing at about 40,000. We have not seen it in Lagos. I don't know whether you have seen it. So if all those come in play and come, and the cost of tomatoes is going down, especially in Lagos, I heard it's gone down by almost 50 something percent. So all this will help drive down inflation. And so I think I'm confident that going forward, we could see a reduction in terms of inflation.
Well, let's hope that in the coming months we see further reduction. I'm looking forward to that as well. Economist Mukhtar Mohammed, many thanks for lending your thoughts on the program.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure always.
You're welcome, sir. Well, that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okpeyemi Owoseni. See you next time.